Just loading. Hi. I know I always have to give everybody a second, so I'm going to take a picture. All right. Oh, it picked up on your face, the ghosts.
Oh, cute.
You.
And I have a ghost on my shirt.
Oh, cute.
He glows in the dark.
Seriously?
Yeah, like if I turn the lights off right now, he would be green.
Ah, I almost was like, do it. And I was like, no, that's too much work. Let me see. I'm going to post this. Should go. And yay. Okay. I think we are good enough where people will be able to see us now. Hi, everybody. I have my friend Sarah here from Sarah's Shelves with me for my book club live show on Gallows Hill by Darcy Coates. Sarah, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we can kind of go from there.
Hello, I'm Sarah from Sarah's Shelves. I kind of read a little bit of every genre. I mean, it's spooky season, so I'm going to be reading mainly horror, like for the foreseeable future. But then I don't know about holiday time, like Christmas time might go back to some of those cutesy romances.
Yeah. And channel name is Sarah's Shelves. I have all her information linked in the bio. And also, we will be sprinting after this. So you will see our faces. We'll kind of hop off. I usually do that where we hop off and jump on another link. But thank you so much for being here. We both read this book very last minute, which is why we're giggly. It's just funny because it's really long. It's like almost, do you have it physically or did you read it on a Kindle?
I read it on my Kindle. I actually had like an arc of it that I didn't read before it came out. Yeah. So now I can review it. So that's great.
That is great. I read it on Kindle too. Before we talk more about it, I want to say hi to everybody here. I haven't read this in time, so what's new? Literally almost me. But I can't wait to watch this back later. Thank you. Hi, Kim. How are you? That was my comment. Hello, everybody. Hi, I haven't read the book yet, but I'm here for the spoiler-free stuff. I feel like we'll spend quite a while on spoiler-free. I feel like with this one, it's pretty easy to talk a lot of it spoiler-free. So
yeah,
hang around for now. I like your hair. Yes, your hair is cute. It's brown now, right?
Yeah, it almost like blends into my chair.
Yeah, I saw in your story and I was like, it's so cute. I loved it. Hi, I love the pumpkin. So let me know if anybody in the comments has read it. I know some people just kind of hang out and don't want to comment, but comment if you read it, if you feel comfortable. And I'm going to put my non-spoilers right here. So, first of all, I want to give you all the synopsis of this book. And this is about a main character. Her name is Margot, and her parents have recently passed away. They passed away on the same night. And so she actually inherits their whole winery. And their winery is called Gallows Hill. And basically, it's run in this like very kind of gothic house. It's very old. It has a rich, long history. And so she decides to go back and decide if she wants to keep the business. And it's kind of a tough decision because there's basically a ton of employees who are just relying on her for their income and their livelihood. And so she decides to kind of test it out and try it out. And the first night she's there, some haunted stuff starts happening and she gets creeped out. So that's kind of the gist of it. I kind of almost went in blind for this one. I mean, I had read the description when I originally kind of like chose it, but I don't know. I hadn't brushed up on the description, so I kind of went in blind. How about you?
Yeah, all I knew about it was that it was Darcy Coates, and I knew people were interested in it because of like such a beloved author. And then just like the winery part of it was like what hooked me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know the location. Have you read a Darcy Coates before? You'll have to remind me.
No, this is my first one.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. It's my first one too, and I've been meaning to read Darcy Coates for so long because I know that a lot of people love her books, and she has so many books.
Yeah, I didn't know where to start. I was like, I guess I'll just start with this one because it's a new release.
Exactly. Did Kim say she finished this book. I can't remember. I think Kim actually read all of it. Tell me, Kim, in the comments. But I remember I was on a sprint and she was saying it's one of her darker ones, which was surprising to me. So I guess the first thing I want to ask is, did you find it like cozy horror? Because I know Darcy Coates is known for cozy horror, or did you find it scary or more disturbing? Like what were your feelings on it?
I feel like it kind of towed the line because there were parts where I was like, "Oh, that's so like the creepy visuals." I wouldn't really say
Yeah.
it's cozy because I mean, this isn't a spoiler, but it's more like body gore slash horror type than like ghosties, like Casper the Ghost, you know? So
Yeah.
I see that it's more horror than cozy horror, but I've never read a cozy horror, I don't think, so I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I agree. It was hard for me to fully tell because, like you said, the imagery was creepy.
Mhm.
But also I wasn't personally scared. But that's a hard kind of thing for me to measure because I don't really get very scared in books
Yeah,
usually.
same.
You're the same way, right? So
I
it's
want a
like,
book to scare me. Like, this one almost there were times where I was like, "That would really freak me out if I was reading this, like, in the dark and I was alone and all this kind of stuff." Like, if I had the perfect setup, then I
yeah.
might be, like, looking around, making sure that nobody's watching me or whatever.
Yeah, and like you said, how you can't it was like paranormal, but kinda felt a little bit different in the
Yeah.
spoiler section. We can talk about that because I have some questions because I was almost a little confused. Ooh, I think Katrina definitely read this. I'm
Yes.
excited. Let me see. Oh man, I haven't read it. That's okay. This is a really long book. I kind of had a feeling as soon as I realized, like, how long it was, I was guessing that maybe people wouldn't have been able to fully finish it, before the live. I did read it, but I did a quicker read yeah, me too, than normal so that I can review. I do plan to reread when the audio comes out. Yes.
Is it
It
typical for Darcy Coates to, like, not have an audiobook out with the actual book? Like, does anyone know? Because I found it
I
kind
don't
of weird that it
I
didn't
did find it weird.
like,
Yeah.
not even on Audible. I was like, "What? There's no audio anywhere?"
I know, I was searching, like, far and wide. I was like, "I need an audiobook." 'Cause probably everybody knows this is like my busiest time of year. It's most people's busiest time of year. Halloween, just on BookTube, is there's always so much going on. And so I ended up reading most of it yesterday and I had already had like a full shift. And so I was like, I really, really need to have an audiobook. That didn't work out, but I really wanted one. But I knew people had said it was nowhere. But I still, like you, I was like, there's gotta be like
Yeah.
it's gotta be there. And so I kept looking it up on Audible and stuff, and, like, yeah, basically, I couldn't find anything. I don't know if it's normal with Darcy, let's see if anybody knows. Um, this year, the audio has come out later than her books. Yeah, she has, like, 5 books coming out. Darcy's a queen. Let's get on Darcy's level, everybody, come on. Like, all the authors. I want 5 books a year. Um, yeah, no, that was the only thing that I was bummed about.
I feel like
Uh,
the next one I would read, though, from her would be From Below, because I am like, water
mm,
horrifies me. So I think that would actually scare me, but I feel like all of the other ones at least look the same. I don't know, like, the premise
mhm,
of each book, but, like, The Haunting of Ashburn House, The
yeah,
Haunting of whatever, like, they all look the same. They're probably not, but just looking at the covers, I can't tell them
yeah.
apart.
I completely agree. Yeah, Erin Megan has, like, a really good Darcy Coates ranking video, and I've
Mhm.
already watched it, but I need to rewatch it because I really wanna know, like, what I should read because, like you said, a lot of her books are just called The Haunting of something, or
Yeah.
they look the same, and it's like, "Oh, there's a haunting, and then there's a woman going there." And so they're hard to, like, from memory tell apart. Let me see. I think I read that. Hi. Glad to have you here. I've only read one from her, and it was creepy vibes, and I was on the edge, but there was no gore or anything, and the ending was kind of happily ever after, so I figured that's the cozy aspect. Okay, yeah, so, like,
Yeah.
the ending could impact cozy. Yeah, I guess personally, the visuals were creepy. I guess it wasn't I I will say there was an element that was pretty disturbing towards the end that we can't really talk about.
Yeah. And, like, there was gore, like, there were descriptions of gore.
Mhm.
Was it on the level of, like, The Troop? No. It wasn't like that, but it was on page, like, there were some gory
Mhm.
aspects to it.
Yeah.
So it is darker in that way.
Yeah, and I actually think maybe it is more gory than a typical supernatural book. Maybe.
Mhm.
I don't
Maybe.
know. It seemed potentially a little bit more gory at points than like a traditional supernatural feel-in book. Um, I read this during Summerween and my memory is fuzzy. That's okay. I do remember the dog. Yeah, so there's a dog and I was like, if this dog dies, I feel like it's okay to say the dog was all right. I feel like people will want to know.
Mhm.
The dog was
Doesthedogdie.com. We're basically
literally
them right now.
literally. I know there was a cute dog. Let's see. I read that. The audio is coming out in 2 weeks. I recommend reading her books in the dark. In the dark. Yeah.
Mhm.
Did you read it in the dark?
I mean, like, unintentionally parts of it, yeah, but not on purpose. I don't know. Like, I did read it while I was alone, so
Mhm,
I would hear, like, a creak or something, I'd be
mhm.
like, "What was that?"
Well, that's good. So it did kind of spook you a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Good. That's good. Yeah, I live in an apartment building and it feels extraordinarily safe. I realize I'm saying this as Dahmer is on Netflix and it was in an apartment. I'm fully
You're just,
aware.
like, around a lot of people, like, there are witnesses,
There
you
are
know?
lots of witnesses. It's
Yeah.
kinda like we live in a studio because the apartment complex is very bougie, but we wanted to be here because it's in a really nice, like, kind of I say isolated, it's not an isolated location, but it's, like, just it's in a suburb, so it feels very safe. So when I'm reading or watching horror, it's really hard for me to feel scared, which in
Yeah.
a way is great because, like, in real life, I'm, like, really safe. But when I'm reading, I'm like, "Oh, kinda miss when I was in Waco and, like, fearing for my life, like, in a house."
You could just
Because
drive your car to, like, some woods, a wooded area, and just, like, sit outside in the pitch black with, like,
I
a
would
little
be
light.
so scared. Yeah, because when we were in our house in Waco, it was like a rental, really, like, sketchy, like, student housing, and we would
Mhm,
hear taps, like, on the window, and we'd be like, "Great, so I don't know what that is, but we're gonna go to bed now." Whereas here, we don't get that, but so I
mhm.
personally wasn't very scared. I also was reading it, like I said before, faster than normal, so I feel like when I'm trying to push myself to read something fast, it's harder to get spooked. Like, I gotta slow down and really be in the atmosphere.
Yeah,
From Below was so good. That's good to
probably.
hear. Hi. I really wanted to read it, but I just ran out of time. Still here for the chats, though. Well, thanks for being here. I feel like it was a very long book, so totally understandable.
Mhm.
I think she writes a lot of haunted house books. Mhm.
Yeah.
I didn't get to read it all yet, only made it like 70 pages. That's okay. Now, what you all can do is you can come back after you read it and then let me know in the comments what you think. I
Mhm.
read Haunting of Ashburn House, but I was a little bored. Read In a Cemetery. Nice. So, pacing, what did you think about the pacing and were you bored or were you okay with it being a slow burn?
So, going into it, it's 378 pages. I was like, I feel as though there are gonna be parts where it's gonna drag.
Yeah.
But the parts that no actual action was taking place, there were still some weird things going on or, like, an
Yeah.
explanation for something was happening, so there was no time where it was just nothing was going on.
Yeah.
So I liked the pacing a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was surprised because I was like, there's gonna be a part that like really, really, really drags because it's
Mhm.
like 400 pages. That always happens. So I actually wrote in my notes that I almost felt like the middle of it was the end in a way. When things
Yeah.
first started happening, it almost seemed like a climax of like another book. Like I could have seen that as being like
Mhm.
the end in a way, like the tension. So I really appreciated that in this book. I do think it could have been shorter by maybe like 100 pages just because it took so long to get through.
Yeah.
But I wasn't ever like bored, which I
Yeah.
was really impressed by because, like you said, there was always stuff happening.
Mhm.
I could see why sometimes like people might be bored in this, but I personally wasn't bored. I will say this isn't really a spoiler, but I kind of wanted more backstory on the character. Like, I personally felt like this book was very plot driven and atmosphere driven, but
Mhm.
less like I still don't feel like I know much about who that character was, the main character, Margot. Like, I feel I have an idea, but I don't have a clear picture of like, oh, this is her, these are her motivations, this is her personality. I didn't get a lot of that. What's your
Yeah.
opinion on that?
I mean, because 'cause you're kind of just dropped into it in the beginning, like,
Mhm.
she's just at the funeral, like, that's how it opens up,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you get nothing of, like, her life outside of this. So
Yes.
it was a little interesting because some of the situations that start happening, you're like, why are you choosing to stay here? What is so bad or whatever about your life that you're choosing to stay? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously there's other things at that are happening, but
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. I know what you're saying, like in the beginning.
in the beginning, I'm like,
Yeah, the very
but why
beginning.
would you stay? There must be something going on, but why we as the readers, like, why don't we know about it?
Yeah. I thought that was kinda weird a little bit. I don't think I've ever read a book where it was just like, "Oh, here we are." I mean, I like that it fell into the action, but I just wanted a
Mhm.
little bit more, like, character development, just a little bit, and I felt like I just don't know who this Margot girl is, like, who are you? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I can't say I liked her character or disliked her character. I feel very, like, "Eh," about her. Very just
Yeah.
okay, and I like to have an opinion on a character. Like, I like to feel like they're real. So, I guess that is one of my maybe negative things about this book.
I mean,
I will
you do get, like, childhood things, but
Yeah.
not her life now. I'm trying to
Yeah.
say this without being spoilery, but it's very hard. But yeah, you
No, no,
get,
no, it's
like,
okay.
childhood her, but
Yeah,
not
so
yeah.
I think you can say that, like, there's flashbacks throughout, so you do get an idea of what her life was like when she was younger.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like you said, as an adult, you kind of don't get very much.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Let me know in the comments from people who have read more Darcy if this is a Darcy thing, like, if she's very much more atmosphere and plot and less character development, or if this is just this book. Let me know because 'cause I'm very curious. I have nothing to base it off of. Um, let me see. Did you have a favorite character then?
Kent was my favorite character.
Yeah. Kind of just like this wholesome, like, old man, right? I
Yeah.
like
I mean, at first I was a little suspicious.
Yeah. Um, I was too, because I feel like whenever so if anybody doesn't know, he's just kind of like the manager, right? Kind of
Yeah.
help
He, like,
the
oversees all of the goings on of the winery.
Yeah, yeah, so she's kind of he brings her back to after the funeral to the business that she's basically inherited in the house, and he's like, "Hey, this is all your stuff. Here's" and he shows her around and stuff, and, um, I liked him, and then I guess I like the main character. I felt kinda, like, wishy-washy. I didn't really have a main character in this. I'm looking at my notes to see if anything, like, stands out to me that
Mhm.
I felt towards a character, but everything was just plot points, basically, that I was writing. Um
I mean, I kind of liked that I had I didn't fall in love with any character, but I did like all of the characters. But it wasn't like you said earlier, it wasn't character driven, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to like it because I don't even know if I like plot driven books more than character driven. It really just depends.
Yeah, that is true. It does depend. I don't think I would have necessarily liked this as character driven even. I think I just wanted like a little more background. Like even
Yeah.
just a tiny bit. I don't think I needed like a ton because I did like that it was plot driven because sometimes when I try to read haunted house stories, I get tired because it's like all character and I'm like I don't really care. I just want some spooky things. Oftentimes that can happen. Personally, that's how I feel. But yeah, just like a little bit more.
I was
Let me
gonna
see.
drag one of your favorite books for a second and be like,
Oh, you do it. I don't care.
Home Before Dark. Like Home
Oh,
Before Dark did that a lot, where we focused more on character than like actual
oh, that's
haunted
funny.
aspects. I kept
I
thinking of that book the whole time I was reading this, actually.
oh, did it feel similar or
It
no?
felt very similar. It had similar vibes to Home Before Dark and also Lock Every Door a little bit.
Yeah, it did. I felt like it had lock. I was actually thinking that's really funny. I should have been thinking of Home Before Dark, but I was thinking of Lock Every Door because she's like going and she's in this new space and just a lot of
Mhm.
the vibes that I got. I don't
Yeah,
know. It
and I
really felt like Lock Every Door a little bit.
yeah.
Um, without like a thriller aspect, I guess.
Yeah, and I felt the same way about this main character that I did for the main character in Lock Every Door, because you are just dropped in again.
True. Yeah.
So I felt like their characterizations were very similar, but then the actual like plot, not that they're the same whatsoever, but the
Uh-huh.
plot was more similar to Home Before Dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it does involve a
Yeah.
haunted. Is it haunted house? Good. Yeah. I agree. See, I'm bummed that I crammed this and it's on me. But because I feel like if I would have slowed it down a little bit more, I would have liked it even more than I liked it.
Yeah.
We can share like a little bit later on what our ratings are, but I feel like I would have rated it higher if I could have just slowed it down a little bit. But it makes me excited to read more Darcy. I personally, like after reading this, want to read Darcy. Is that how you feel? Or
Yeah, the writing itself was phenomenal. Like, I was intrigued the whole time. Like we were saying earlier, even when nothing was really going on, we were getting, background information, or we were getting a flashback and not actual like events taking place, no action. There was no dull moment because the writing was just
yeah.
making you hooked.
And it was descriptive, but it wasn't like too descriptive, but it was good. Like the writing was it was pretty. It was pretty writing.
Yeah. I
Um,
like how we both do this. We're both just like doing
really,
constantly. I realized that when you put your hand up, you're like,
I noticed how much I talk with my hands on my
mhm.
live. I don't know why, but like when I'm filming my other videos, I feel like I don't talk with my hands as much, but in lives, I'm like, hi guys. Like I'm
Yeah.
like in everybody's face and like I don't know what it is. I just am somebody who talks with my hands and I feel like lives feel really personal. And
Mhm.
so that is so funny. We're like both doing the same thing.
'Cause
Like
there's no
what
one to like reach out to, so we just have to like reach out to the void.
literally. Um, I have read all 3 of her books. I would agree that she has wait, wait. She has way more than 3, Kim, just so you know.
All but 3 of her books.
Oh. I totally read
You're
that.
like, Kim, don't you know that she has a way more?
No, I wasn't doing it in that way. I was just confused. I read all but 3. Okay, gotcha. Um,
Mhm.
I would agree that she could be seen as a writer who focuses more on atmosphere. Yeah. Which I love atmosphere in books when
Yeah.
it's done. It's so funny. I say when it's done well, but some people may argue that like atmosphere is done well in books that I have like DNF'd. So I don't know. In my opinion, when it's done well to like my liking, if that makes sense. Like there still has to be stuff happening. From the one I've read, I don't remember there being any backstory about the characters or getting to know stuff. It was very in the present and atmosphere heavy. Okay. I think that's typical Darcy. In the Gravekeeper series, the main character doesn't even have a memory. I love that. There's no backstory available at all. Um, I like plotty books, plot heavy, plot driven. Kim, I think you'll love Or yeah, I think you'll love Darcy just in general, like all her books. Have you loved all her books? Like every
I mean,
single
she's
one?
read all but 3 of them, so I would think.
Probably. Probably. Home Before Dark is one of my all-time fave books in life. I know, same. It's Savannah, I'm aware. The sass. And Darcy Coates is one of my favorite authors. Nice. Also, I'm like kind of half asleep right now, y'all. So go easy on me. I almost sang the Adele song, you know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my caffeine in. Okay. More thoughts that I was thinking of talking about. So we talked about characters, we talked about writing style. Um, was it scary? I usually have more things planned for this, but I was hurrying this time. Do you have any comments that are non-spoilery that you wanted to mention?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not spoilery. Don't
Okay.
read I guess don't read this book if you hate spiders. That's what I'll say.
Oh my god, I forgot. I was gonna say that.
Like,
Yes.
if you have a fear of spiders, just
Woo!
don't just skip this.
It kept happening. So there's
Yeah.
a scene in an attic, and yeah. You know how usually it's like one little part and then it like goes away? It's like a spider ran across the floor and you're like,
Yeah.
um, but then this one was like a lot. Yeah. So I have a question. So a lot of times in horror, people will be like, "Oh, if I were in their shoes, I would have done this totally different."
Mhm.
Do you feel that way about Margot, or were you kind of like, um, she seemed smart? Like, what are your feelings on that?
I mean, kinda like I was saying earlier, I was kinda confused why she didn't just skedaddle in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, I
I
really
think
just didn't understand. I get that she, like, wanted to give it a shot, I guess, and, you know, be try to learn more about her parents. I mean, it's in the beginning, it's not a spoiler, but, like,
no, I don't think
she's
consider that as a spoiler.
yeah, she's, like, coming back, and she hasn't seen them in years. I mean, and then she comes back, and it's at their funeral, so she has some catching up to do. So I get, like, she was curious about what happened in the first place, like, how they died, first of all, and then also
Mhm.
just about their business and wanting to know more about her childhood and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think also she felt guilty, like, just leaving all these people out of work. I think that was another thing that
Yeah.
really drove her, because there's some decisions that are made at the end of the book that are spoilery that do attest to her character. Like, she has a really good character and good
Yeah.
heart, and so I think that was a big part of it, and then, like you said, wanting to know what happened, which is funny because that part really reminds me of Lock Every Door. 'Cause a
Yeah.
lot of people would be like, "Well, why does that main character care so much about someone she, like, just met?" You know?
Mhm.
I feel like you were saying, "Why does she care about being here so much?" So, there is a connection with that too. Um, I know, Kim. I love you. What's your fave Darcy, Kim? The Carrow Haunt?
I've heard of this one.
Yeah, I've heard the Carrow Haunt is really good. I've heard a lot about The Haunting of Ashburn, The Carrow Haunt. What is the other one that I always hear about? The Haunting of Blackwood, maybe? Was another one I hear. Like you said, they all sound similar.
Yeah, because there's a is it I don't know.
And Carrow Haunt is, like they said, is the other one. And then
Yeah,
there's another one. There's like a Haunting of Gillespie House or something. I don't know how to say it.
I don't
Um,
know.
I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to still stick with non-spoilery things, because most of my notes are about the spoilery things. Oh, I will say I did think of Home Before Dark in the beginning. Again, this is so close to the beginning that I don't think it could count really as a spoiler. When she goes in the house, there's these little bells, and you know how they use like the bells as messaging systems in the old houses. I was like, ooh, that's a little Home Before Dark moment. I loved that. Did you notice that too? Is that like what first made you think of
Yeah,
it?
and, like, just the atmosphere of the house and, like, coming back to a place that you've lived before, but you don't
Oh,
necessarily remember.
mhm. Yeah,
It was
I
very
agree.
similar in that way.
That makes sense. Second fave, Craven Manor. Third fave, The House Next Door. I have not heard of that one, The House Next Door,
Mm-mm.
actually. Fourth fave, Blackwood. There's The Haunting of Lee Harker. Oh, yeah? So many, oh my gosh. I love The Whispering Dead and The Ravenous Dead. I'm excited for the 3rd book. Yeah, I own, what's it called? It's the Black Winter series. It's Voices in the Snow. It's over on my shelf. It's like the one with the baby doll. Um,
Oh, yeah. I like that cover a lot.
yeah, and it's a series, I believe. Yeah, it's super creepy, and I found it at Half Price Books for, like, $5, so I snatched it. Yeah, actually, my Barnes& and Noble has, like, all of her books too, which is cool
Mm.
'cause I'm kinda surprised that they have all of her books. Does yours have all Darcy or no? Do
Um,
you
I haven't been to my Barnes& and Noble in a while, but, like, they've recently expanded their horror section, so they probably do have more now, but I know way back when there weren't a lot. If I wanted them, I would go to, like, Second and Charles because they have a whole horror table, and it's basically just all Darcy Coates.
I
Even
love that.
Stephen King. It's like Stephen King and Darcy Coates, like, that's the whole
Yeah,
table.
yeah, I love seeing, like, such a good selection of a female author because in the horror section, it's always Dan Koontz, sorry. Dean isn't it Dean Koontz?
Yeah, Dean.
Yeah.
Is
Why
that
did
horror? I thought his stuff was more, like, thrillery, but I guess I could be
I
wrong.
did too, but it's always in the horror section for me.
Hmm.
And who is the Dan one? There's a Dan one, I feel like, that I always see.
Dan Brown?
Dan Brown. Okay, yes, I think yeah. So he's always there, and then it's Dan Brown and Dean Koontz and Stephen King. So
Mhm.
now I'm like, we got some Darcy, we got our little rep there. I'm excited about that. Yeah. I also realized the other day that I mostly read like horror books from women, like authors, and I like them more. But that's a whole nother discussion. Let me see. Black Winter, whole series. Wait, hold on. Black Winter reads so fast, the whole series. That's awesome. Barnes& and Noble does have all Darcy. That's good to hear. Darcy was a self-pub and was picked up by Traditional Pub and is not in all the stores. Gotcha.
Mhm.
I read the first 2 in the Black Winter. I need to finish it. Yeah, I think all her books are on Kindle Unlimited, which is great. Yes, Dawn, they are. Awesome. Trying to think if there's anything else so we can keep you all here. Um, I would also say that I would recommend this to people who love like family mysteries because a lot of it revolves around finding out like the past of the family, and there's like this diary that she gets to see, and you kind of feel like you're solving it along with the main character. So if
Yeah.
that's a kind of trope you like, oh yeah, it's now in all the stores. I would recommend this one. Oh, and also I will say, this is the last thing I'm gonna say, I think, before we go to spoilers. Um, I wanted more scenes in the actual, like, winery area where they distill the wine, because
Mhm.
there's this whole first scene when they're introducing it, you're going down and you're seeing this, like, amazing atmosphere,
Yeah.
um, and I was like, "I'm expecting a lot of stuff to take place down here." And actually, most of it just still takes place in the house, which was pretty surprising to me because I was like, "This setting is so good at the winery, like, why are we not in the, like, distillery area?" And
Yeah.
also, it's told in the beginning too that there's, like, tunnels, and there weren't in my opinion, I wanted more scenes in those, so that kinda, like, knocked a star off for me. So I guess what did you feel about that? Did you think about that too?
I felt like it was kind of a missed opportunity with the amount of time we spent in the house. I mean, I get that it's the property itself that we're
Mhm.
focusing on
Yeah.
because they owned the house, they owned the land, they owned the winery, but calling it Gallows Hill and like that's the name of their wine company, and I don't know if it's the name of the house also or if it's just like all tied together. Like, is the name of the house Gallows? Like, because she doesn't even know what the address is.
Yeah. I don't know. So basically, in the beginning, there's like a retail store, it sounds like kind of up front. And then you drive, and then there's like the winery area and then the
Mhm.
house. And
Yeah.
so I think the whole thing they just refer to as Gallows Hill. I don't know, like you said, if there's like a specific address. In that part where she doesn't know the address, I was just personally thinking, oh, she's so new. She doesn't like know the address memorized yet, but maybe it doesn't really have an address.
I mean,
I'm
it
not sure.
probably does, but I feel like, I mean, she wouldn't need to know the address. It's not like, because when
Yeah.
she went there, Kent was the person who kind of like showed her where to go. He didn't say like, "Oh yeah, it's this." He was like, "Just
Yeah.
follow me." So
Always in these there's always that one person in these books where it's like, "Welcome, it's all great here." And then like the next day they're like, "You did not warn me." And they're like, "Yeah, sorry about that." Like every horror book and you're like,
yeah,
"Why?" Um, let me see. I
and there's like
think
12 employees. Like I was thinking, I was picturing it the same way. I mean, I don't know if this is like, I just kept comparing it to Home Before Dark, I guess, because I just kept seeing it as like, I pictured the house as the Bates Motel house, first of
ooh,
all. So
I
I
love
was like, yeah, so I was picturing that, and it's like up on a hill, and then you see like these rolling, whatever it's called. Like there's just a bunch of hills, and then you go down, and then as you're going down, there's like a storefront, and then you go down a little more, and there's that, because you know in Home Before Dark, like the housekeeper or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like on the land,
Yeah.
but in their own house. So that's
Yeah.
how I pictured like the employees, because there were 12 employees. So I just pictured like as you go down the hill, there's like
Yeah.
buildings.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I
I
don't know if that's true or not. That's just how I pictured it.
Yeah, no, I think they did mention that the employees did live kind of off on the land. But because I remember her seeing the little like houses or whatever. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's accurate. Um, there was one character that I found, or I don't know what it was. I was very surprised that she met like all the employees and stuff and like met the like accountant, I believe, or something. And I was like, this guy's
Mhm.
gonna be like super important to the story. I don't think we ever see him again.
Are we talking about Andrew?
Maybe. Do we
I
see
mean,
that in
we see him again, but like he's not really that
he's
important.
there?
Yeah.
Right. Like, I was surprised when they, like, introduced him in the beginning, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna be a huge character, like, wow." And this is just really mostly focused on her and then, like, Kent and
Mhm.
then the past. That's, like, pretty much I guess so
Yeah.
there is this lady I feel like I can say this, it's not too spoilery. There's this, like, woman who comes in called Witchety or something like that, or, like,
Yeah.
her name is hard to remember, and she, like, blesses the land.
Mhm.
Um, so, like, she, I guess, is important in theory. She only shows up for a few scenes. And then she has this cute dog, which made me happy. Um, yeah, but that's mostly like the important characters. We didn't really get the perspective of the workers very much or like
Mhm.
much at all of that. So, all right, I'm thinking we probably need to go into spoilers just because like all my notes are about spoilers, but if you want to be spoiled, feel free to stay. If you don't, you should probably click off because we're going to talk spoilers. So I'm going to switch my banner. Give people like a second to adjust accordingly.
Bye. No.
Why? Oh, also, I realized, did I read this comment? I think opening up the book at the funeral was pretty dark. Yeah.
I
It
loved it though. It was like setting the scene perfectly.
Yeah, and I also felt like it felt very realistic to how real funerals feel, if that makes sense. Like it was very much like, "Oh yeah, this feels like a funeral." It didn't feel dramatized, which I liked because I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes in books or shows like they make it really dramatic feeling and it's like this is not really how funerals are generally for like the general public. So Jamie's like, "Bye."
I mean, I guess it was kind of eerie because everyone's looking at her because they're like, "Who's this girl? She's not
Yeah,
in town."
true. Also, to answer your question, Dawn, before you leave, yes, we are. We'll wrap up pretty much by 7 and then we'll be on a different stream. But yeah, see you later. Yes, okay, so any spoilery things that you want to talk about? Like what scared you the most? What scene freaked you out? I'm so curious.
Okay, so like, can we talk about the effigy?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was creepy.
That was so weird, and I was trying to picture it in my head, and I was
Yeah.
just coming up with all crazy type of stuff, like just the like the skull with the hollowed out eyes. Like I just couldn't. And I just imagine him so freaking tall, just standing in the center of the room, and it was so freaky.
Yeah. So this is when I get really frustrated at my own self because I struggle sometimes with visualization. So I didn't really have like a clear picture because they were explaining it and I was like, what is this? Like
Yeah,
I was struggling to picture what the heck it was. I finally think my mind just like imagined a statue, like a weird statue with like a skull or something on it. But yeah, thinking about being in a situation, I spook myself out very easily. Like if I'm in a house and something's covered or something like in a basement or something. So I was thinking, yeah, that would really freak me out. I don't think I would be able to keep that thing in my house at
yeah,
all in general. I'm glad she did because it was important to the story. But
yeah.
yeah, no, that really freaked me out. Yeah, that scene and also the scene in the attic was probably the other scariest scene to me because the spiders, first of all, and then also just like the tension in that scene was so good. I loved it so much. Super good. Yeah. Um, did you like that scene too?
Yeah, at first I was like, because she kept saying like I touched flesh, and I was like, was she going down the ladder at that point? Because she said that she had her phone and she was
Uh,
pointing it at something, and then her other hand had grazed flesh, and then
yeah.
later, and then I guess I just kind of didn't focus on that, and then we were like talking about, oh, that thing up in the attic. And I was like, what thing up in the attic? I was like, I mean, obviously there's something fleshy up there, but did we actually get an
Oh,
answer for what it was?
I think wasn't it implied that it was like the daughter of
Yeah, like
let me see.
later on in that scene where she literally starts coming down over the bed, and like
Mhm.
that was how her parents had died, or at least that's how Margot thinks her parents died.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is like she reached down because they had that stain
Yeah.
above, but I guess that was like her blood pooling. I don't really know the whole like logistics of it. And like you said, I have a hard time picturing things too. So I kind of just have to fill in the blanks of what I think it would look like or what I think certain scenes
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah. So yeah, I will say that was a little tricky for me to visualize too. Exactly when you were saying when she like dropped her phone or something, I was struggling to figure out what fully was going on there.
Yeah.
But I think what happened was she felt something from the attic, I believe. Is that what you got too?
Yeah, I think she was leaving at the time because she saw like the pool of blood because she put her finger in it, and then
Yeah.
the spider crawled out, and then more spiders started
Right.
crawling out of this pool. And then that's where it gets fuzzy for me because I'm like, okay, was she backing away and going back down the ladder, and that's when she touched
Think so.
Esther?
I think so. I think she was going down the ladder.
I mean, it's not that important, but
Yeah,
like
I was
Esther was
thinking,
up
yeah,
in the
we're like, what direction was she going?
yeah, like
So she touches Esther's flesh. Yeah, that whole scene, the spiders. Oh my gosh. So
yeah.
when I was saying earlier, like, did the character do something that surprised you? I was like, girl, if like I was seeing all these spiders and they were touching me, I would be like gone. I would be
Yeah.
leaving. Was she just inspecting because she saw that weird stain and like the weird locks and was like, "Oh, something must be up here"? Was that all the information? Is that all the information we got about the attic?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, because I was like, I wouldn't have done that either. Like
I
I was
mean,
curious.
curiosity killed the cat. She really was just like, I needed to figure out what's going on. But yeah, like you said, if I saw one spider come up out of there, I would be like, what? And then you see more, and I just can't deal with that. I mean, if those were roaches, especially, I would be like out the house, down the street, like not even
Or
anywhere.
like throw a match.
Yeah, literally.
On your way out. We needed a map. Yeah, Katrina, were you confused? I know you said some of this was a little fuzzy, but is this coming back to you at all, like the attic scene? Because I was like, am I just missing something? Because like you said, I felt like there was a little bit of a gap with that
Yeah.
scene at the end of it.
Because then she just starts talking about like, oh yeah, that thing that's up in the attic. I was like, how do you know there's a thing up in the attic? I thought you just touched something you thought was like fleshy.
Well, also, I think she does see glowing eyes.
Oh my god, that was a theme throughout the entire book. Like all of them had glowing eyes,
which I liked.
I liked that, but it was really creepy. And when she actually like looked at Esther and her glowing eyes were like really far apart because that's where like she got hacked, which was really sad.
Right. Yeah, the whole past about like the uncle killing the whole family was so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was sad. What did you think about the ending, how she kind of resolved everything with the haunting?
Because it was kind of anticlimactic. Like her just apologizing was like, okay, like nobody thought to do this before. Like say I'm sorry for what we've done.
Yeah, so that's another reason. Oh, I realized we never said our star ratings. Oh well, it's fine. We can say it in the spoilery section. So that was another thing that I found a little bit Signs ending-ish. Have you seen Signs, the movie?
No.
Okay, well, if anybody's here, I can't ruin the ending of Signs. It's a M. Night Shyamalan movie from like early 2000s, I want to say, or maybe even late 90s. I think it's early 2000s though. It's a really, really good movie. But at the end, at the end, how they stop the aliens feels very like, really? And that's kind of how I felt about this situation. Cause they were like, they just wanted to be validated and apologized to. And like, I did so that part, like the apologizing thing surprised me. It did make sense, like revealing the bodies. I guess that part of it made sense to me.
Yeah.
But the whole like apology thing was kind of weird. Like when the ghosts were like trying to attack her and she's like, I'm sorry. And then they immediately stopped. I was like, that's kind of like weird.
It was very weird. And I'm just like, so everything leading up to that though had my heart pumping. And like after that too. But it was just during that part, I was like, really? Because she even thought, I just have to end the bloodline. So I feel like she was gonna kill herself. That's what I thought was gonna happen.
Yeah. I was concerned for her. I was like, girl, don't do that.
Like, I'm the last living one. Like, I just gotta stop the line. And then she has the axe, and I'm like, girl, are you about to, what are you doing? And then
Yeah. Okay. See, Katrina was confused too. That makes me feel better. All three of us were confused. So it must not just be, it must be a thing that was a little confusing. Okay. Don't start around roaches. Yeah. We've had many roach conversations of our terrifying roach experiences together. Yeah. Not like together as in when we were like in the same room, but like on streams. They are traumatizing roach experiences for sure. You've had your share too.
Yes, too
like
many.
With the popcorn bag or the chip bag. Was
yes,
it?
You remember? Yeah.
Would you like to tell people here what happened?
No.
Okay, another time. Maybe on our actual reading sprint. I like the imagery of her axing the wine barrels. Yes. Okay, we have to talk about the end and how freaking creepy it is that there were bodies in the barrels.
And people were drinking that.
And how the owners knew. And also, you're drinking red wine.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm like.
I was like really hoping that this has not happened in real life. Like just in general, like anything like this. Because I'm like, are there weird things in barrels that we're drinking wine from that we don't know about? Like it unlocked a new fear for me.
I mean, I guess if you're getting it from like a family farm or something, but if you're getting it from like a bigger company, they have like FDA approval and stuff.
True.
A dead body in there.
Yeah, they're not gonna approve that. I really liked her of axing the wine barrels and like Yeah, that was a really cool scene. That felt very, like, movie-ish. I feel like this would translate to film very,
Yeah.
very well.
And I liked the axe. Like, I loved that they picked an axe as the
Yeah,
weapon.
yeah,
It's not
yeah, I
used a
agree.
lot.
No, it isn't.
And it
Um,
gave me the Shining vibes.
yeah, yeah, I like that too. Is that Gallows Hill brand wine, Sarah?
No, it is not, but it is bougie.
You hold it up. Ooh, it's bougie. What is it?
It's, Eternally Silenced.
Is that expensive? I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's kind of expensive. It was a gift to my sister from her boss, and then my sister was like, "I don't drink wine, so, like, I'm just gonna give
Ew.
it to you."
Wait, do you know how expensive it is?
I've looked it up, but I don't remember. It
Like,
has,
more
like, a whole wax thing, like, the top of the bottle is fully encased in wax. I literally had to, like, take a knife and, like, cut into the wax and try not to cut my hand and, like,
oh,
carve it
kind of
out so that I could get to the cork because it's, like, fully encased in wax on the top half.
that's kind of a Gallows Hill moment. I don't know. I feel like that's probably how they package their bottles. This is a
And they're
little
eternally silenced because their freaking lips are so shut.
Oh, yeah, speaking of that, I wanted to say, loved that imagery. That was
Mhm.
awesome. Like, the sewing, like, on the
Yeah,
mouth. Oh, and another thing that really stood out to me is how, like, her parents' eyes kept popping open, like, in the casket, and
yeah,
how the person was like, "Oh, like, it keeps happening, look away." I
yeah.
liked that. It
And, like,
was
we're talking
creepy.
about, like, shredded eyelids, and I was like, "Ew."
Yeah, I guess this was probably gory. I
It
don't know
was
why.
really
I
gory.
don't know why in the beginning I was like, "It's fine."
And,
I
like,
think
the when she looks in the mirror when she's in her parents' room and she sees herself, like, dead, but then she
Mhm,
goes back later when she finds Esther's body first. She's like,
mhm,
"That's how I saw myself, like, this bloated, dead person." So she
yeah.
was basically seeing Esther as, like, her in the mirror.
Yeah. Oh, this makes me wanna read all of Darcy's books. And
It was good.
I have, like, a TBR that I have to do. This always happens, like, I for readathons where I'll plan a ton of stuff for the readathon prompts,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, "Wait, I wanna read this and this and this," and they don't fit the
Yeah.
prompt. Uh, what would you rate this book if you had to give it a rating?
I mean, honestly, 5 stars. I
That's
really
awesome.
liked it. I really, really liked it. I was like
Awesome.
the whole time I was like 4 or 5, 4 or
Yeah.
5, and then as soon as we got to the whole twist of, like, they're in the wine barrels, like, their dead bodies are just floating, I was like, "Okay, Darcy, you done did it." Like, that was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I feel like if I could have read it a little slower, I would have liked it even more, and I'm annoyed at myself, but I can't really change anything about that.
Yeah.
So, based on the experience I had reading, I would give it like a 4 star because atmosphere was so good. It was genuinely creepy at points. I was never scared, but it was creepy.
Yeah.
I definitely I don't know. I really love the twist at the end. I think I got a little hung up on like the apologizing thing. I thought it was a little weird, but I
Yeah.
really like the fact that the bodies were in the barrels. Like that really worked with me.
Yes.
And I guess the reason why it's not 5 stars, like there's a few reasons, just especially
Mhm.
because I wanted them to be down in the like what is it even called? Like the distillery section of
Yeah.
the I want it, I guess, in the gallows, I suppose. I wanted them to be down there more. There was like a tunnel scene, I guess, which was fun, but I was anticipating like way more. I was anticipating like it to mostly take place down there since it was at a creepy winery, and like you said, it was mostly in the house. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me really excited to read more Darcy. And I totally understand why Aaron is obsessed with Darcy because Aaron and I usually have really similar taste. And so it makes a lot of sense. I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Um ew. Is this about the people in the barrels? Yeah, I would assume. It's
And
pretty
I
gross.
was confused for a second because I was like, how does this all tie together? So you have like this land where people have been hung, like publicly for years and years, like way back in the day. And I was like, but how does that have to do with her family? And
Yeah.
then the way they like tied that together of like, so there's Ezra and then F whatever his
Eph
name
it's
is.
either like Ephraim or Ephraim or something or
Ephraim,
yeah,
and
his
like
brother.
he kills Ezra and their whole family, and they're like cursed to stay. The curse for a second threw me off. I was like, this is gonna get cheesy really fast. Because
Uh-huh.
whenever there's a curse involved, I'm just like,
Yeah.
ooh, curse. And that's why she couldn't leave, which made sense. But I was like, why would all of these people just let her stay there? Like, like, why did he just let her stay? Like, he knew if she stayed one night, she wouldn't be able to leave. So that's why I'm like, why are you showing her around the house and all this stuff? Like, you know what goes on. You've been here for 30 years.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that. I think maybe he just thought it was like a necessity and that she would like immediately leave if he told her, which like yes, she would have.
Yeah.
Like
But it just
any
felt kind of shady for them all. Like, they all knew about it, and then they were
it is
all
really
quick to,
shady.
like, come to her defense when she needed help, but it's like, why didn't you tell her in the first place? You're just letting her
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, I'm gonna inherit this house, like, let me stay here, and I'm
Do you
never
think
allowed to leave."
do you think it's because they wanted people to keep their jobs or something again?
Like, keep the legacy going, I guess? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
because they didn't know about the bodies, right? The workers didn't know. Her parents knew, or did
That's
they?
what I think Andrew was there for, 'cause
You think he knew?
he oversaw the more expensive wines, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, 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 he was, like, down there with them,
Yeah,
okay,
and
and did
that's
they
where we
all
met him, was near the expensive ones.
and he was like, "Try it, it's awesome," and she's like, "No," and then literally he's, like, gulping it down. I'm like,
I
"Mm,
think he knew. I think he knew.
if I knew that I was drinking, like, dead bodies, I would not drink that wine." Like,
He's like,
first
"It'll make me young forever."
he literally was so enthusiastic about it, like, if
Yeah.
he knew, he just threw it back. He was like, "Okay, let's go." Yeah.
But the
Also
whole time, sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 you're good, go ahead.
The whole time I noticed, I highlighted it a bunch of times in my ebook, but there was a lot of theming around her mouth, which was very
Yeah.
interesting. Like, they kept talking about she licked her lips. It was mentioned, like, 3 times, and
Oh, I
then
did not that
something
probably
about,
gives us
like, her mouth, and then, them wanting her to drink the wine, and then they described her
Oh.
mouth again, and I was like, "Something's going like, what is going on with the mouth?" But I guess it's, like, the taste, so you would focus on, like, first of all, she didn't give a reason why she didn't want the wine.
Oh, yeah, that's another reason. Like I said, why I knocked the star off was there was just some, like, gaps that I feel like should have been filled. Like, why did she not like, I felt like there should have been a bigger reason than just her not liking the taste. Because remember, she was like, "I drink everything but wine. I don't like how wine tastes." And I thought it would have been cool if it was like she had some, like, trauma from her childhood or something at the winery that, like,
Yeah,
turned her off to wine or something.
yeah,
Oh, really quick, I keep thinking of things now. Um, the tape, the VHS tape was super creepy. How
yeah,
they were, like, trying to warn her not to go out, like, on the grounds, and they were, like,
mhm,
doing puppets. That was
yeah,
scary. I
and
liked
then
that.
Kent being dragged into the ground, I thought he was gonna die.
Oh, yeah. I had to, like, rewind and, like, be like, "Wait, what did I just read?" So he
I
just,
thought he
like,
did
fell.
die.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't. I guess, would you consider this, like, a happy ending? Like,
Yeah,
everything did kinda turn out okay? So maybe that's why people say Darcy also is, like, cozy, 'cause, like, Amy said I think Amy
yeah,
earlier was like, "Everything turns out okay," and that's, like, not a common thing in horror necessarily.
yeah.
Also, Kip's very happy as a Darcy Coates fan I should say stan,
Well, I
because
mean, we don't know if it kind of ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, like, her and Kent are gonna keep the business going, and he's like she says, "Oh yeah, you can leave if you want to." And he's like, "What? Like the curse is lifted?" And she's like,
Mhm.
"I have some work to do, but I'm pretty sure." And then that's the end.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm pretty sure it is lifted, but we don't actually get an answer to that.
Yeah. Cause we never, like, see them leave, do we? There's no, like
Yeah.
it's just like, "Oh, you're good."
Like the police are coming to get their bodies, so I guess they'll get a proper burial. But what
Mhm.
about all of the other people that were hung there?
Yeah, like, there is kind of a loose there are some things that could have been tied up a little more, which is wild because there were, like,
Strange
400.
choice of words, Sav,
Oh.
because of all the
Oh,
nooses.
tied up. Yeah, the noose part was creepy, by the way, in the beginning, how she goes out and there's
Yeah.
just, like, 5 nooses there,
I
and
mean,
she's like
I expected that. It's called Gallows Hill.
yeah, but also it was creepy. I was like, "If I just walked out and saw all these nooses, I would leave
Yeah.
too."
And they're like, "Oh, no, it's fine. Like, they happen all the time."
Oh, and then the trespassing, they were like the bells, like, people were crossing over, and she's like, "I'm just gonna stay here in my house." I was like, "What?" And then how she
Yeah.
had the light on, and she was, like, hearing people outside of the house, and she's like and then they come in the house. Yeah,
Through
a
the
lot.
dog door, when it crawled through the dog door and she could hear its hands smacking on the floor in the kitchen, I was like, "No, run out of there. Run."
The way yeah, I really liked how it was crawling. That
Yeah,
was
and
creepy.
she described them as, like, twitching, and it
Yeah.
just yeah, it was kinda creepy.
This is a really good book. I highly recommend it. I just let the chat. Amy's like, okay, no worries. I just said we'll be over soon, finishing up our live. We'll wrap it up in a second. Okay, stars is still solid. Yeah. Gave it 4 stars. I don't remember. I not. We cannot talk. Oh no. On my main live, like my reading sprints, this is gonna be a struggle. Okay. I don't remember why I knocked a star off. Maybe for the reasons we're saying.
Maybe, like, the loose ends.
There were a lot. Okay, I like that 4-star rating. I feel like her books are getting better and better. I loved From Below also. Well, that's awesome to hear.
I will
I
have
love
to
to hear that. Yeah, the dog lives and everything is okay at the end. Oh,
lives.
no,
Well,
not me
okay,
being
well,
so
not
tired.
every dog, because her dog is dead.
Her dog lives.
When she
Yeah.
saw him, like, she was running after Marsh,
I
that was the
knew.
dog's name, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, the spirits, they, like, make the locks not work, so maybe he got out," and then she's chasing him, and then it's her dead dog, Constance?
Something.
No. It was wait, what's the name for an orange that starts Clementine, right? I think it's
Constant.
Clementine, something that starts with a C, and then
Yeah.
it's, like, has maggots. The imagery was just so great, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like, it was gross, but
Yeah.
effective
Oh yeah. Clementine.
every
Yeah.
time. How did I
Um,
remember that?
I was impressed. When I was in my 20s and working at my first job in my field, I had a group of work friends who every night after work, we would go to this bar. Behind the bar, a tree, there was a noose hanging, uh-oh, there, and we would always look at it and go, "What the heck is that?" The facility closed, and on each of our last nights of work, we celebrated in different ways. On my last night, my coworkers went and cut the noose down from the tree and stole my car keys while I was drinking, and they hung the noose from my rearview mirror. That is mean. That is so
No.
mean. I got in my car later and saw it and started screaming. That is so mean. Your friends are so mean.
That is wild. I left my car unlocked all night last night, and I got in my car this morning, and I was, like, looking around to make sure nobody was in my back seat or something, because
I'm
that
always
freaks
so
me out.
scared of that. I know. I'm always so scared of like somebody being in my car because it always happens in like every Kim. It
I
was
was there,
hilarious.
like I started screaming. It was hilarious.
I would have been like, you're not my friend anymore at all. Cause
Yeah.
I've never been someone who like likes playing pranks or, is chill with that. So I would have been like really mad. But I'm glad you thought it was funny. Oh, it was not mean. It was the funniest thing I ever saw. Kim! What? That's awful. We're all like traumatizing, and Kim was like, it's kind of hilarious. But why was there a noose on that tree?
That's
Yeah,
on there.
I thought you were gonna say like you learned history of the land or something, and like it was like I thought that story was going somewhere different, a little more sinister, and it just turned into like not quite as sinister, which is good to
Mhm.
be fair for you. But also, I was like, what happened? It was probably there for hunting purposes. Hunting? They
Like,
just hang a noose,
you could
hope
hang up,
something.
like, a deer or something if you're gonna skin it or something.
Oh,
But, like, why
oh,
behind a bar out in the open? I'm confused.
oh, maybe someone. Yeah, it depends on like where this was located. Was it in the country?
But it's behind a bar. I'm confused. I don't know. I don't know the area.
All right, Kim. I loved your story though. All right, we're going to end it and we're going to go over to our reading sprints. But thank you so much for being my co host. This was so much fun. I am so glad that you gave it 5 stars.
I know. I'm
That's
so glad.
so good. I'm so happy because I don't think I've ever had a co host like rate something 5 full stars.
Really?
Actually, no, I think Erin rated The Last House on Needless Street 5 stars. I think she gave that one 5 stars. But no, like I don't think anybody else has given a book for the book club like a full 5 stars. So that's
I
awesome.
mean, I did
That,
pick it. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. I mean, you did choose it. So that's awesome. I love it. I love that it like panned out so well. And I'm happy you chose it. And also, yeah, I'm really happy I gave it 4 stars because this is
Mhm.
one of my highest rated book club picks too. So you chose well.
Heck yeah.
Oh wait, what? It was in the middle of the woods. Oh no. No one thought to call the cops. We were drunk and didn't
This
care.
gets worse and
Yeah.
worse with every sentence.
Kim's like just sending more stuff. It's just like worse. All right, we're gonna log on to a different StreamYard link. So I will see you all on the sprints if you would like. Ooh, great spooky story, 4 stars. That's great. All right, we'll see you all soon. Bye.